In the 1960s, an anti-war movement emerged that has been effectively...
So our committee was born out of both opposition to pay-as-you-throw and the community calling for stepping back from pay-as-you-throw implementation to look into what is the best fit for the removal of solid waste and recycling in New London, both short and long term. Our city council created a committee of 8 members and gave us 3 goals: increase recycling, reduce solid waste volume, and garner community support. Part of achieving those 3 goals is to look at all options we have available to New London. Over the summer, Gordon Vidal was one of the few people who came before City Council to offer a possible solution, and his solution was solid waste and recycling removal through privatization. We've invited him here tonight to continue that discussion. And I'll now turn the floor over to Gordon to introduce CWPM and his other guests, if you have other ones, so they can talk to us about the benefits New London might realize through privatization. The committee will then follow up with questions, which will be followed by an additional 10 minutes from anyone in the public who has questions. So,
sure.
You're up, Gordon.
Again, Gordon Vidal and Jason Manafort. And the reason I came to that meeting is there was a big push for the yellow bags, and there was a lot of reasons that didn't seem like the best idea for our community in particular. So I went to the meeting, and after speaking with Jason and finding out a few things regarding what we saw coming regarding the recycling costs increasing. So that wasn't like a new thing that was popped on us. That's been around for a long time. So when that came up, we got together and came up with some ideas. And I think Don Vendetto, who's not here, kind of said, hold on, let's take a look or take a listen to what other options are out there before we approve that. So I think that's how it all happened. And I really wanted this to be very conversational. There's a ton of benefits to this, or potential benefits. One thing that was a little frustrating, we tried to get real numbers from the city, and that was nearly impossible. So we gave up the task of trying to give you an exact amount that we think we could save. Instead, we came up with what it would cost. And my round numbers are it's going to be a 7-figure savings, unless, of course, you decide if this is the route we take. Anybody who is displaced need not lose their job. They could be reassigned to do work that's not currently being done in an efficient manner. So there's a lot of benefits here, and Jason does this. This isn't new to him, so he's been doing this a long time, and I think CWPM just got the old line contract. They're in New Britain and a few other places.
Yeah, we do. I'm Jason Manafort for you. I own a company called CWPM. We have basically 3 facilities, one in Plainville, where our main office is, one here in New London, we're in Berlin, and we operate transfer stations for the state in Watertown and Essex. We have our own, another transfer station in Deep River, and we also operate and partner with the city of New Haven, operates their facility. And we're building a new facility now in New London. We do curbside collection, like Gordon says. We do New Britain, Plainville, Thomaston. We do the recycling in Plymouth. We do subscription in Plymouth and Terryville. We do probably half of Stonington. We do most of Groton, Westerly, Rhode Island. We do a bunch of curbside collection as well. We're in the commercial business. The company that we own now in New London was formerly Tenerello. If you're familiar with Tenerello, we have this facility on Jefferson Avenue. We operate out of there and over on Elm Street. Getting to this here, what we did basically, because there was no specs to go by. There was nothing to, there wasn't anyone that said put a price on this. So what we basically did was, we're talking to Gordon and figuring out what we do in other places. We basically came up with a price, which is, we think, as close as far as the scope of the work that needs to be done. Probably still needs to be tweaked a little bit, because we think we covered everything, and I can go over that, what we're thinking at least, and how we put a price on it, and the work that we would do for that price. And like Gordon said, why? Come on in.
Is that vacant?
Come on.
Right, as I drip water on you.
That's all right.
Right, good to see you.
You too.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
So we came up with a price to do work. We think we understand. We think we covered everything. We might not have because we don't have all the information. And we didn't really. Gordon took some assumptions to what the city's savings would be, but I'm not personally telling you what you can save or can't save. That's really up for you guys to figure out. We're saying we're going to do this. We could do this amount of work. This is what it's going to cost, and then you guys got to say, well, it costs us X. You know, as far as anticipating what your savings would be, that's really up to you guys. We're just going to tell you what we can do for the price that we proposed.
In addition to the savings, I mean, some of the other key points were increasing the recyclables. I mean, that's a big issue for us. And in the past, I gave some data. I passed it along to Brian. Hopefully, everybody got a chance to look at it.
There should be a one-page sheet when you've written
Yeah.
pre-implementation of recycling carts.
So it's amazing.
And then post.
Simply by implementing the recycling carts to the larger carts like they have in Waterford, it increases recycling by 50% on day one. And that's a demographic very similar to ours. And that brings our recycling levels up very close to Waterford just by virtue of putting those carts out. Now we understand, New London can't do that because that's a $700,000 investment that the city can't afford. But we can. And we would spread that cost over the contract term, and it makes sense doing it that way. But you would get your recycling. I think everybody would recycle if it was easier. And part of that is not having to unpack your bag of recycling and systematically put it in your little blue bin. So that was an important thing that we thought everybody would be interested in.
Yeah, we assumed, like I said, we made a bunch of assumptions when we came up with this proposal. First would be, we would add, like Gordon says, we would add a recycling cart to every home. We would purchase those carts. They would, under the term of the contract that we proposed, the city would own them after 7 years.
You say every home, is that like a three-family home with each unit?
Each unit. Everywhere where there's a trash cart would get a recycling cart.
So we'll have to make sense of that because there's some that have 6 families and maybe they're 1 bedroom. You don't need. Yeah, well, that's the kind of stuff we'll have to define.
For common sense has to come in.
A little bit. Hopefully we have some here. I know we do.
So we were gonna purchase the carts. They would say the city of New London on them. They would look like the city supplied them. We would pay for them, and then we have that financed into what we priced for service. So we would supply the recycling carts. We would deliver and supply them. We would continue to pick up all the trash carts that the city is doing now. Once a week trash, every other week recycling. And then we would include, we were figuring, and I didn't have a list of this stuff, and these are some of the assumptions we had to make. We didn't know, does the city now pick up the parks, the schools, the town buildings, the beaches, that sort of stuff? I'm assuming they did. They do. I know what we do is a commercial business, some accounts, but I'm assuming that a lot of that stuff the city trucks are picking up. So we assumed we would do the same. We assumed the discussion was that the transfer station would close, the city transfer station would close, and that we would direct haul the trash to Preston. There would be no need to transfer the way you do it now on the trailers. And then we would either use our new facility to transfer the recycling, or we would direct haul that to Willimantic. And those contracts with Willimantic and Preston are still yours, and the city would pay the fees on whatever deals you guys have in place with them. We would just be collect it and deliver it. So we assumed that. We assumed the current fee structure that you allow residents to come into the transfer station now, we would have our facility open and accept the same materials at the same price. So there would be no, the residents would still have access to a facility to drop materials off at the same pricing.
Sorry to interrupt, can you go back 1 second? So
Sure.
the shipping fees would still be on the city,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, that's your contract now with SCARA, and we would just deliver under your agreement. No different than your truck's delivering now, our trucks would deliver the same way. But I guess what we're proposing, or what we priced, was we would deliver direct to Preston and bypass the transfer station. There wouldn't be the need for that. That would be part of the savings that the city would.
What is the need for it now? Why are we?
That's
You guys have to decide why that's open.
Well, I think I mean, it's a practical sense. Most cities have some sort of drop off for residents where they could bring stuff in. And if you're gonna have, if you're gonna have to staff a place and have a place for people to come in and drop stuff off, you might as well maybe, I'm assuming, use it for your own material. So you're not running your trucks all the way up there, you could dump them closer. I'm not really sure what the original thought process was there or not. That's really, I'm not here to really analyze your operation, I don't wanna.
But one of the savings would be realized through direct hauling it to the Wilmanic and Preston.
So the black trucks that you have now, after a run, after a route, they'll just go right up to Preston. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So we'll go right up to Preston and drop off. And
That's
come
what
back?
That's what we're anticipating.
With that, for your business now, you collect in New London and you drive to Preston and drop it off. And
Yes,
New
sir.
London gets $4 per ton for what you drop off in Preston.
Yeah, there's
Would that
difference.
go away under this plan as revenue to New London?
No, because our commercial routes in this are two different.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Two different things. We deliver to Preston. Our commercial business goes to Preston under the SCARA agreement. And then every town with SCARA has their own deal.
Right.
They're all within a couple bucks of each other. Some towns add on a few bucks, some towns don't. So whatever that is, this doesn't change anything. This has nothing to do with that.
So
This is your trucks, drive to the transfer station now, put it in a trailer, take the trailer, drive it to Preston.
right.
That's what we're saying, we're just gonna,
So our revenue stream from that aspect would not go away.
no, because that's our commercial routes.
Yeah, that's all.
That has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
That's not what we're talking about at all. We don't deliver, that's really a separate.
Actually, let me finish this, I believe it comes time.
If you want
No,
to,
that's all
just
right.
for
Jump in.
questions, yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
One, when you got out as far as multifamily.
Yeah.
I don't know if would suffice, because I don't know if the locations for someone would do it, but would you have the capacity to put, as opposed to bins, smaller dumpsters at some of these locations and use a different truck like some apartment complexes do now? And I say that is because we have Mansfield.
Yeah.
We have Mansfield Road, they're looking at Part B, I guess. You have a new complex that's about to go up at Howard and Bank. And if they don't get a fourth extension on their financing, Shipway 221 will be down the road too.
But we're mixing apples and oranges again.
Well, like I said, I compare New London to New Britain a lot because the buildings are somewhere where you have, and the city has to draw the line and say, the city's gonna supply service to X, and anything on this side, you gotta go get a commercial hauler and pay yourself. And you guys gotta say what that is, that's not for me to decide. New Britain is fuzzy too, where you got a package store downstairs and 3 apartments above it. And they put, the residents obviously have carts and they're able to put material out on the curb, put their carts out on the curb, but then the package store is putting stuff out there too, and sometimes, it's up for you to say, yes, pick that up under the city contract, or you tell that package store, no, you gotta go pay a commercial guy.
And the way it's lumped in now is Gordon is allowed to put up 10, 30-gallon garbage cans a week. I don't think he does. I can't confirm that, but restaurants are also allowed to do the same thing.
Right.
In addition, they get 2 pickups per week. So
Right.
under your plan, that wouldn't change either. The 2 pickups, not forgetting about the tons.
It wouldn't change, but I put some language in here that possibly would help pay for
Sure.
that extra and
Yeah, I understand
have
that.
that cost shared
But
appropriately.
just the pickups would still happen
Yeah.
twice a week. Okay.
I was going to ask about the other cities that you mentioned that you're already servicing, but you seem to be keen in on New Britain. Is New Britain like New London, where in the sense that it's city pickup? Because I understand like Montville.
Oh,
respond.
And that is a good question because make it be clear to everybody, because one of the fears out there is now we have to pay separately. No.
No,
It's
I'm not
not-
getting that, but I'm just saying to compare us to a city where the residents are required already, like Montville, to take their stuff to the transfer station. If New Britain is not like us where they have city pickup already before you guys got involved, is where I was going with,
The city of New Britain has always had, city supplied service.
okay. And I guess, so I don't take
And
up
they
too
have a drop-off transfer station that residents can use and drop material off for a fee.
The big question, if this city was to privatize it, the big issue would be, of the 14 employees we currently have on our solid waste transfer station, how many would be able to come over to work for MEC, for this organization?
That's your big question?
Well, what it seems to be the big issue when it was presented before, when Center City District presented a proposal, and the biggest pushback was, well, there's a union involved and all this, and it's like, we have 14 people, well, 13, because one's out on permanent disability, from what I understand. How many of those could
I
be?
mean, like I said, I know,
That seems to be one of the criteria for,
we're extremely busy. We're adding an operation in New London with the transfer station we're building. We're gonna be hiring people there. I mean, I would like to say we could hire everybody, because if they have Class B licenses and they're truck drivers and they know the business, whether they would work in New London or work somewhere else for us, driving a different truck in a different route or a different town, or working I would like to say we could use everybody, because I mean, it's,
Okay,
I don't know how much you see in
what
the
you just
news.
threw out now.
Truck drivers are scarce, and it's hard to find employees and stuff like that.
Basically,
so-
what you just threw out is your system back to what I call it, back with the one-armed bandit, that you only have a driver, there's nobody else on board the trucks like we currently have in New London? Since you're saying
It's
you
gonna
would be
be a
looking.
mix of both.
Okay, if you were
because-
saying you would pick up drivers, and I know that's an issue because not everybody working has that CDL license.
Right.
to
We
be
have
able to
helpers in our
be
business as well, we call them helpers. We have
Okay.
helpers in addition to the drivers that we use on our commercial roads, and we use them for different parts of our business now, so.
And I guess this one would be more towards Gordon and you, would be what type of roadblock or what type of information did you fail to get, you weren't able to get to the city to make your presentation?
All right, let me go back to his question first. Because even if there aren't people who fit into whatever the hiring criteria might be.
Lord knows we could use them elsewhere. That's-
Exactly.
I know.
And I mean, I see Bruce Tapling working 60 hours a week out there, doing the job of 3 people, and it's kind of crazy. And just,
Not a 14-hour day right there.
yeah.
Yeah, 14 hours, that was sufficient. This is crazy.
It's crazy. So we could certainly use those 14 people somewhere else, and even though I wouldn't be 14, and still realize an enormous savings and meet all those other criteria we want. The recycling increases, the reduced liability costs, and all of those things would still be met, and the city would enjoy those quality of life issues that have been suffering for so long. So, and back to your question, I forgot.
About the roadblocks we run into as far as getting
Oh.
your figures.
Yeah, so the big number here, and a lot of the savings is realized with the insurance savings. And it's hard to nail those numbers down. And I got some numbers, and then I was told those aren't the right numbers. And then if you talk to people in administration, they say you're not going to have those savings because those worker comp numbers are going to follow them. It's hard, it's a moving target, purposely, especially when you go out and buy trucks. When you're entertaining other ideas, now we have additional obstacles that were put in front of us, not with the greatest of foresight. So those are all other things we'd have to figure out a way to absorb. But so it was a moving target every time we asked somebody, we got a different answer. So and Jason told me once we started this process, don't even bother because they're going to change the answer.
Right.
We'll just tell you what we can do, and you figure out whether it's $1 million or $500,000.
Thank you.
We've been through that before, and I'm like, Gordon, the guys that are pro privatization are gonna shoot low, and the guys that are against it are gonna shoot high. You're not gonna get the right number. It's gonna be, and that's why I don't wanna really entertain that part of the conversation, how much you're gonna save. You guys have your own checkbook and costs, and that's up for you. And the other thing, we're not the, big bad wolf here trying to steal people's jobs. That's the last thing I wanna be portrayed as. I mean, we're here, we're in the city, this is what we do. We're own property here, we're invested here. job.
Is your new transfer station up and running?
Not yet.
Now we're finishing building it now.
If you haven't gone down, go down because it's extraordinary how much our progress is made.
You need an appointment to go down?
What's it just?
Tell me no, Gordon.
It's right next door to our current, it's right behind our current transfer station. Marty
Yeah,
has some
the
questions.
easiest way is go down Fourth because you get a
Yeah.
clear view of everything, and it's kind of neat because you can see where the railroad cars come in, and you can see what it's going to be.
I want to get to Marty.
Yeah, couple of things, some questions, some statements. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming. I think it's important to get your input and expertise. And I think I was on P&Z at the time when you came in and got your approval for where you are, so.
Thank you for that. I'll take it.
But the city center district had come in before council, I'm gonna say roughly a half a year, maybe more now, ago. Keith Robbins represented city center and made a very brief presentation outlining not much, and the issue was referred to committee, and I happened to chair that particular committee, and I called the meeting, and nobody from city center showed up that particular evening, so the issue kind of died there, due to the absence of the follow-up there. But we also have privatized, and I don't know the exact timeline, but our water and sewer operations. And I would say that that has worked out exceptionally well. And Veolia handles that now. But when that was incorporated X amount of years ago, getting to the labor issue, all of the employees were absorbed into that new firm, which was a major consideration, that nobody was losing a job at the same pay. And I believe, and Veolia is a union shop, so I don't know if you are or not, or you pay that scale.
We're not, the waste company is not union. Our construction company is union, the waste company is not.
So I mean, these are things that, as policymakers, that we're gonna have to evaluate. That I just kind of throw out for consideration. And for those who may not necessarily be going through, jumping through hoops to see this move forward, that they're gonna use as a wedge issue.
Sure.
No, we understand that.
I mean, if you wanted from us something like, this is our pay range, these are the benefits we supply, 401k, health insurance, da-da-da-da-da, if that would help you, that this is what, a job with us would pay and expect for hours and
I think that
overtime
would
and
be,
something like that.
would be a necessity.
We could give you that.
And just again, for informational aspect, when we transferred the operations of water and sewer out, that there were, at no point has there been any firings, there's been no layoffs. The workforce, I believe, has been cut in half, it's gone through natural attrition over the course of time.
And that's my point. There's no reason why other divisions couldn't absorb all of these, despite the fact that Jason thinks we could use everyone. There's no reason, if they don't like the pay scale, or if you are for some reason married to unions, that is not another option. Because through attrition, we have many people who are going to retire shortly, but at least we get to work on those quality of life issues for the 3, 4, 5 years in the interim, and the savings that you find potentially would be realized at that point.
The easiest thing for us to do, and we've been in this situation several times in different areas, is to hire the guy from town that knows the route, that gets up at 4 in the morning, that's not scared of, knows how to operate the truck. Those are the best people for us down there. There's no question about it. Instead of starting fresh with new people, I mean, if we could bring everybody over, and that would be our first choice.
Yeah. Now, as part of our background today, we've got some stuff that we accept at our center that is not picked up. I mean, we have people have to bring it to it, such as batteries, paint, antifreeze, clothes, etc. Are you proposing to handle this material as well, or is this something out of the current?
I mean, I would have to look at the list of every single item because we have it similar to yours that specify what we can take and not take and all that. And I think I covered everything in our permit that we can take, but I'll double check it. The plan would be that our facility would accept what yours could, that you would be able to realize the savings of closing that facility. And we're in the next driveway. It's not like they're going anywhere else. It's like, go there, go there. We would charge the same thing. It was part of what we proposed.
And another issue, and it gets blurred, because it should be separate, but it does get blurred, and it's bulky waste, and people who leave bulky waste out at the curb. And, you know, theoretically, it should not get picked up.
But the goal, when we sat down, the goal was to improve what we currently have, expand those services. So we will have a bulky waste program. We'll discuss waste, yard waste, figure out a way to do that. There's a couple of ways that the city can actually profit from that. To make sure people are paying their fair share in the city for a change, and to reduce the liability, and to increase the recycling. So, I mean, we're trying to meet all of those goals. We're not trying to reduce any services. We're trying to expand all services and save money.
Can I keep one of these?
Yep, absolutely. I want to get to Jacqueline so she
Yes.
can get it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I'm fine for now, thank you.
My question was if you're not able to absorb all the employees, can they be used at DPW?
I'll
If they
answer
have-
that. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. So nobody really would be losing the jobs.
That's kind of the point I've been stressing, because
Well,
as
I
it,
mean, that's your opinion.
it is my opinion. You can come up with a way why it
The
wouldn't
public
happen.
works director would need to get involved, the law director would have to get involved. We have a legal contract with the union.
Right.
It has to
Right.
be abided by and or negotiated.
Which has open positions.
When does that contract expire?
They're negotiating now, right? Yeah. So again, unfortunate timing. This all needs to be considered while that negotiation's going on. I'm fearful it's not, but it should certainly be considered as a possibility so that the taxpayers can kind of benefit for a change.
Well, to Marty's question, if you can get the city admin those numbers as far as the benefit, the employment with your company, that would probably help what's going on right now too, so they know what their alternative is.
I want to get to the kid. You have a question also? No. Okay, then done.
I just want to kind of follow on some of Marty's thoughts and thank both of you for being here. We met previously, it seems like it was a year ago, but what was it, 3 or 4 months ago?
Yeah.
To start this conversation, and so thank you for pulling a little bit more information together. And I know it's been difficult to get very specific dollar amounts, and you're right, it's not on you guys to make those comparisons. You're doing the right thing, get us the numbers. So I do have a question though. So in our current situation and in the world in which these municipal services have existed pretty much forever, we'll just talk about public works for now. We pretty much know what we're getting. We pretty much know what those costs are going to be. We're negotiating the contract now. We can look out a couple of years and say, okay, we signed an agreement, 1.5% per year. You know, health insurance is going to go up a little bit, so we can kind of forecast and to a certain extent control what those cost increases are to a certain extent. So I see a $1.9 million number. What we don't have, if we were to surrender those types of municipal services through these union employees in the way that they've always existed, to a certain extent, we would have no control over what you decide you want to charge for these services.
You would have a contract negotiation.
And so how long, would it be a 3-year contract you'd entertain, a 5-year, a 10-year? Obviously, the longer the term of that, I would expect the pricing would be.
So I didn't include that with what I handed out, and Jason, I'll let you talk about it.
We were thinking, just because of the way we priced it, that we wanted the initial term to be 7 years.
7 years.
We asked for a CPI after the first year, whatever it is. And then after those 7 years, the city would own the carts that we're supplying and putting out there.
Okay.
And then in theory, because I have that cart money in the 7-year pricing that you're paying, it should, after 7 years, those carts are paid off, the price on an extension, call it an extension period after that 7 years, the price might be able to come down a little bit because those carts are paid off. Whether that, whatever that money is, and I didn't really separate it, maybe it eats up some of the CPI that got added in and we get back to the initial price or something like that. But I mean, that's what we did in other communities because I mean, that's debt that we had to incur to pay off them carts within the contract.
So that would pretty much be a lock for 7
Quite a while. No, we propose, that's our proposal.
That's your, okay.
We would lock that in.
All right.
We're asking for a CPI every year, but then like I said, after
What are
those carts are,
average, those CPIs?
depends what index you use, and what year you're looking at, 1 to 3%
Per
is
year,
usually the range.
year over
And
year,
I'm sure we could look that up.
Yes,
year over year.
just like you, we'd have to deal with the same issues you.
And what is that
Because
on
we
that
have-
number? Is that 1
Yeah.
to 3% on that 1.9?
Yes.
Yes.
So 3 years in, it could be another $250,000. Or sorry, 7 years in, it could be up by almost $250,000 for 3%.
7 years down, again. I would suggest that
Someone would
if you
have,
look at the city 7 years ago, it's a heck of a lot bigger percentage.
I'm not
You'd have-
arguing that, I'm just.
yeah,
making
you'd
sure
have
I
to chart
understand
out,
your
that's
numbers.
all listed indexes, the CPI, you'd have to look at and project it out and see what it'd come out to. But then, like I said, after that term, from my point of view, the carts are paid off.
And that CPI is covering what your anticipations are for.
I mean, we give our guys
Benefits
raises,
and
we give our
raises.
guys raises, they all get pay raises every year. The price of fuel is all over the place.
Yep.
Health insurance is all over, you know what I mean? It's all the same cost that you have, but
I think that's it for me, thank you.
Regarding the carts, are you anticipating that you'd have an inventory of the green garbage carts as well as the recycling? For two reasons. One is if somebody wants more than one.
Yeah.
And also if these things sometimes disappear, I mean, people move and people will ask, or there's damage, and so that you can actually get a cart. If somebody new moves into town and they're domiciled in Hampton, they should get them. Is that
that's a good question, and that's like some of the little nitty gritty stuff that someone's gotta tell us. You know, we buy 200 new carts every year right now, trash carts, you gotta figure that in. I mean, the recycling carts, you know, we figured everybody would get one. You know, when they break, like right now, you know, New Britain, because they own them, or the towns that own them themselves, they deal with it. The city keeps, Plainville, all, you know, most of the towns, they keep an inventory of carts. And I don't know if they let people pick them up, or we could deliver them for you, or something like that. That's something we would have to, you'd have to put in our contract that says,
especially within
include 100 carts of
within the first
new
7 years if you're handling a
yeah,
function.
include, you know, we gotta take that function, that's something you gotta tell me, it's something that.
It's all stuff we can.
I throw it out, we've got your attention, I might as well
For
ask
the,
these questions.
for the carts, at City Center, we were asking for more, those trash cans, more and more, and the city kept on saying, there's a minimum order, there's a minimum order. So we got fed up, we're like, we're gonna call them. So we called them up, what's your minimum order? 1.
Okay, I promise we won't do that.
So, I'm going to get to John in a second, but with the carts, our Public Works Director, Brian Sears, mentioned that he was looking into carts that have a lifetime guarantee.
Okay.
Have you looked into any of those types of carts?
We deal with a company called Rarig, they actually supply, the carts and they deliver them, they have a service where they actually deliver them.
To you or to the residents?
No, out to the residents, they have a really good system to actually get them out and so we would pay a price per cart delivered.
Okay.
If we were to have this contract, we would make that deal with them.
And do
They
you,
do guarantee them for a certain amount of time, I could get the specifics. The company we're dealing with now, we've used several different companies, I'm not sure what brand parts the city has now, but the company we're using now is very good. They don't even, we tell them we've got 20 broken carts, they send us 20 new ones, they don't even care about.
so last one for me
bags, yeah, we've used them before.
And
We
how
put the
have you
readers
used
on the truck.
those with technology with your company in terms of like enforcement type of thing?
Britain used them. That's the only place that we've ever really dealt with them. So what he's talking about is there's a chip in the cart, and then there's a reader on the truck, and it's hooked to GPS. So every time you dump the cart, it knows where you were, that address got a pickup, and then there's all this data that comes out of that. That was a system that the city put on for their own tracking. We obviously let them, we let them install the system on our truck. They bought the carts with the chip in them, and we just did the work. It wasn't really, we didn't analyze the data. It wasn't really our system to operate.
Do they find it helpful or a way to enforce certain ordinances, do you know, or would it be better to contact them?
I'm not really sure what they did with the data. That's the problem when you get all that stuff. It's just gonna read all them spreadsheets and figure out what to do with it, you know? Someone's gotta figure out that
Marie, go ahead.
part of the.
So,
That'd be a good job.
based on your experience in New Britain or elsewhere, what else does, I mean, a lot of people cite that just the carts themselves increase recycling. You hear that a lot. What else does education represent to you, and what do you mean by fines? Is that
That was my doing. So, and first of all, education I think is everything, and I think we need to participate in getting it back into the schools so that we're all on board. I know that SCARA is involved in that, and I think some combination of all of that is vital in order for us to just be better stewards of the world. So we're on board with all of that. And we'll participate in it if it's required, or if it's, when I say required, not we're told to do it, if there's not a better alternative that's out there for free, which I think there is. But we would be willing to do whatever needs to be done on that. When I say fines, one of the biggest pushbacks I get from the mayor and Brian Sear is, well, we can't stop these people from putting sinks in, or whatever it is. And I posted something online today with, it was basically shrubbery as high as this ceiling sticking out of a car. I mean, there has to be an ordinance passed that allows some type of penalty, like there is with other things. If you don't pay your water bill, you get penalized. If you don't take care of business the first time, you get a warning. The second time, you get a strong warning. The third time, you get a fine. And I think that's all stuff that's really going to be on the council, but yes.
We actually do have enforcement, we just don't.
We don't do it.
Yeah, so in the ordinance, there are levels of fines.
Right.
Like dumping at the transfer station, I think is $250.
Okay.
But I'm gonna check, as I was reading about it today, I don't know the last time we've ever imposed a fine.
I
It
mean, the
needs to
city,
come back. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just,
to enforce it.
the
Just have to figure
city's
out how.
advantage to that is if you have two carts and you're paying for pickup on both already, you're paying the disposal fees on the trash cart are gonna be higher
hopefully.
than, which, yeah, lately things have changed a little bit, but long term, that's gonna be more expensive for the city than what it's gonna cost to process those recycling materials. So, you wanna get as much recycling as you can into that recycling cart, because you're paying the tip fees. I'm not paying them. You pay them. So that's to the city's benefit. Most cities have some sort of enforcement, going around checking cards, leaving tags. I mean, the carts that we buy will have a printed what's acceptable and what's not acceptable right on the lid.
Would that be something you would do, or is that something you would do through SCARA, or the combination of both, or?
The list,
Yes.
we would get the list from SCARA or Willamette Waste or wherever you have your contract with,
And work
and
with
say,
them.
give us the list, and we put it on exactly the way they told us to put it on.
Go ahead, Jeff.
You were talking before about the consumer price index, like you were looking basically ballpark. I know we're not in negotiations with a 7-year term of your contract. I think that's all fairness. I think right now that's what we give Viola. I think the water is every 7 years as well. And basically what hasn't come up yet is you guys would be responsible for all equipment. If you need a new truck, you guys would be buying a new truck.
Yes.
If it needed to be maintained, you guys would be maintaining it. Given that what we exist with today, New London, would you be adding additional trucks to the fleet in order so the guys aren't working 12, 14-hour days like they are now?
We would start off with all new equipment. equipment that I buy, you get the tax. Right, it's like everyone's car, like everyone's truck, everyone else in New London, you're not getting that. That's something that, and I don't know what that adds up to, but that's extra revenue for the city. On all the equipment we buy, it's no different than a building we build, or, you know, my transfer station versus your transfer station. We're gonna get a property tax bill with our stuff. You know, you're not, it doesn't
Would you be
happen
able
first.
to absorb equipment that the city, and I brought this up, that we're in the process now of bringing in 5 new vehicles that we wouldn't see till almost 2 months before this current fiscal year runs out, that our Director of Public Works informed us at one of our meetings for some reason, even though it's a $250K line item on our budget, it's 10 months before those trucks even materialize.
I would impress upon the counselors here to maybe revisit that, because frankly, that seems like a roadblock that was thrown here for this
I don't know
reason.
if those would be the type of vehicles you would even entertain using.
What I would do, and we did this with we're talking about doing this with Old Lyme right now. The guy that's doing Old Lyme now is a private guy. He's retiring. We did the contract. We're working on a contract with the town now. So the guy's getting out of business. He wants to get rid of his trucks. Similar to, what do I do with these trucks? I'm not in the business anymore. What I told him was I would either buy them, or if I buy new stuff, I'll have the guy I buy the new trucks from take yours on trade, is leverage of me buying the new equipment, and then whatever I get for the trade, I give him the money. It's a way for me to leverage you getting rid of all that iron, and not you guys getting stuck with it, or having to auction it, or do something.
Those are leases, right? Those are leased.
Right, but I also found to earlier in the conversation, we were talking CPI, Consumer Price Index, the number of $250,000 was thrown around as a result of 7 years.
Right.
Here we're spending $250,000 in one fiscal year
Right.
for 5 trucks that should have been bought over time.
Yes.
So I want to go to some of the additional potential benefits. Maybe you can just take us through landlord move-out services, and then in addition to that, our blight officers tenure. Have you worked with blight officers in other towns to eliminate that if you can? So I think they work in conjunction, landlord move-out and reduction of blight.
We've worked with the blight officer actually in Hartford quite a bit, because the city would pay it. The city of Hartford, similar to yours, they have their own fleet of trucks. They have their own municipal employees doing the collection. But they have a transfer station that we haul out of, and occasionally when they have some extra stuff going on, they'll ask for outside help, outside contractors to help. And some of that was blight cleanup around Hartford, where we'd send trucks out and they would do all sorts of cleanup all over the place, and we would help haul. So we've worked quite a bit there.
So do you have like a standard service, so like the landlord has a lease with an individual, and once a year they
Gordon
get a free
mentioned
pickup?
That was my doing. And that was,
Go for it.
yeah, so
I'm like, a landlord is charging rent, they should call for a dumpster. They
Right.
should call for a private pickup.
they really should.
Why the city
However,
would-
when I sat down with Felix, Felix just thought this was the greatest thing in the world until he didn't. And the reason I thought it was great is because this is his reason why there's so much blight in the city is because we don't have bulky pickup. So we would have to figure that out. New Britain has done. How does New Britain do it?
Yeah, so New Britain, the way it works is, in the contract, they allow every homeowner 2 pickups a year of 5 items, each pickup. And then we have a system where we track the addresses, and it's by appointment. They call 10 Main Street, I need a pickup, okay, we put it in, and then we put it on the route. Because, and I believe it will be somewhere in London, not every route is gonna be a one-arm side loader, like you mentioned, because it's tight and we're gonna have to run a regular rear load truck with a couple of helpers on it, which we do in New Britain as well. And we do those bulk pickups by appointment, and that route truck that's doing a regular route does those bulk pickups as well, because where New Britain's trash goes is a mass burn plant. In Bristol, similar to where New London goes, in Preston, they can burn all that bulk. It can go in the garbage truck with the regular trash and go to the plant. So you might as well collect it at the same time while that truck is out there. And you don't want like a bulk week where everybody puts everything out. They've done that before. That doesn't work. The way we're doing it written works well because there's a little bit out every week by appointment.
So it's by
Sometimes
appointment, you said, right?
yeah, they call in. And like I said, we track how many they get. And sometimes we've got to put somebody off a week because there's just too many to do that week. That's really
And that's
The worst
usually
it's
from a
been.
landlord, you said?
No.
No, it's from anybody.
It's from anyone?
Yeah.
any
Could be a
address.
blight officer, because we have a lot of vacant.
No, it's from a
landlords.
homeowner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're from
but-
homeowners.
But if there's stuff on the city
If there's
streets,
stuff sitting
obviously,
on the
yeah.
street, yeah.
It could be from a landlord that owns 10 Main Street. I guess he could call in twice a year. We don't know who he is. We just track the addresses. We're saying
Yeah, we can-
we're going to give that. We're going to give that address a couple of
But I
pickups a
think
year.
Felix's issue was it's finding its way to Veterans Field because
Right.
there's nowhere else to put it that you don't have to pay. So if I'm a homeowner, I just call.
We would pick it up that way if it, like I said, if it can go to Preston with the regular waste, which 99% sure it can. We would want to pick it up a little at a time every day. We're picking up bulk every day.
Well, history is what it is, because New London basically cold turkey stopped their program with 200 people signed up for it when we still had a city manager form of government.
Signed
That
up
being-
for 200 people signed up for
For
pickups.
bulk
Pickups
for
that weren't
bulk
done.
pickup, they had reservations and they left them high and dry. They just stopped the program 1 July.
Yeah.
But that being history, what is besides the point. We learned in prior sessions we had that we take trash from Contra and others. We're just saying you're going to go direct. Right now, we're charging, like, for people that aren't New London to bring to our transfer station, if I understood them right from our last meeting, where we were charging them like $85, and if they had to take it to Willimantic themselves or wherever, it would cost them $125. You now said you're going to go direct. There's going to be no need for that transfer station. What would you do with those other companies that would be, or other towns that would be looking to bring stuff to our current transfer station?
So what you're saying is the commercial guys.
Right.
I think what you're saying is the commercial guys who pick up recycling will go to our transfer station now to drop off recycling. What will happen?
Right,
To
I'm
them.
one of them.
Yeah. Good call.
All right, so they're saying they get $40 more. I think it's charge them too little.
I mean, we're planning on using our facility. So someone could either come over to our facility or they'd have to go to rent.
So because your commercial business is separate, would that income or revenue disappear from New London? Your income?
Well, it's going to disappear from you regardless.
Because we get income when you drop it off at our transfer station currently.
I guess if we wanted to do it, and I didn't really think it this way, if we wanted to take all of that, call it third-party customers that come into New London transfer station right now, and let them all, under that one category, come to our facility under the city's account. And we charge the city, and you mark it up
Right.
and charge everyone how you want to charge them, that'd be fine too.
So we would still retain
If
that
you wanted to do
revenue
that, that
source.
might be easier because then we would say, we're gonna take all these items for X, and give you a list, and you charge whatever you charge Y. We send you a bill and then you collect, we'd have to work that out, the mechanics of it.
With your
but-
transfer station, Willimantic Waste is kind of on a rail line. Can you bring stuff via rail to Willimantic, or is it not on the same rail type of thing?
We wouldn't rail to, we're gonna ship by rail, but not,
Not-
rail
not the
that
trans-
close doesn't work.
Okay.
Rail is, go to Ohio,
So-
not go up the road,
Um,
doesn't work out that way.
so Thanksgiving last week, everyone that was supposed to be picked up on Thursday now got pushed and it screws up our pickup for at least 7 days.
Holidays are a pain.
How do you handle it?
We just move everything a day. Thursday pickups get done Friday, and then we work Saturday. Fridays pickups get done Saturday.
The same thing.
Yeah. Just push it there.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Maureen. and then-
If the holiday is earlier in the week on a Monday,
Yeah, let's say Monday.
we try to catch up. And what I mean by that is usually by Wednesday we're caught up where everybody's on the right day, but people that put stuff out still on the wrong day because everybody's always confused. We always go back. We might pick up.
Friday, you're caught up?
Say by Thursday we're caught up. So on Thursday, technically that guy shouldn't have to put his barrel out till Thursday night for a Friday pickup. We'll go and do the streets on Thursday and then run through them again on Friday to make sure there's not any, you know what I mean?
So you wouldn't have to be out on Saturday.
We still will go out Saturday just to make sure the Fridays are all picked up, but the guys will be done early. The whole key is
You guys catch
park
up
the trucks
on
and get
in the
home.
middle of the week or no?
Not anymore. We used to,
Alright.
but remember, we're running 2 trucks with 3 routes.
Right.
So,
crazy.
huh?
That's crazy. You had a question?
It was just only about the list of fees, that we had said last time that they were already too low, right? And just that,
I went to Scura and asked for the list of transfer station fees in all 12 places, so we could analyze if our fees are too low. I would assume if you were to take over the transfer station, you'd probably do some sort of analysis, or would you go with New London's suggested fees?
I'd have to look at them, what they are.
Okay.
They're probably pretty close. Maybe they need to be tweaked a little bit.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah, we
we're not
assumed
gonna
you were
double-
close. If you're not close, we'd have to revisit.
We're not gonna double it. I mean, your fees are gonna be similar to ours. You're putting all the stuff in a truck and you're taking it somewhere and you're paying
Sure.
somebody. So
Each town has their own little
Right.
thing. And
Some of it's subsidized a little bit, some of it's not. Like I said, it's not like we're gonna say, I did look at this at one point.
so, did anybody else have more questions here? John Saddy's one of our counselors. I know you had a question earlier, John.
So there was a lot of discussion about accepting employees and so on and so forth. And Councilor Olson started to touch on it, but didn't complete it. When Veolia or whoever the other water company was that took over the water department, they accepted the terms and conditions of the union contract. Would your organization be willing to do that?
No. I mean, we could talk about the rates of pay. I mean, a union versus a private company, you know, the union guys have pensions. We put money into a 401k for people. You know, it's different. I don't know how we could assume it. We could say the guys get X amount of dollars an hour with the union. Yeah, we'll pay them the same hourly rate. The benefits may be different, or there's some things that we can match. We're not going to assume a contract. But there's things that we could say, yeah, the guys are going to make, you know, the guys make X amount of dollars a year. They're not going to have a pension, but they'll have a 401k, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, that sort of stuff.
We put it into our own pension.
What's that?
We put it into our pension, not the city.
I'm not familiar with what you guys do or what your structure is. Somebody would have to show me that. And like I said before, I want to reiterate this. We're not the big bad wolf trying to take people's jobs here. It's absolutely not what we're about. We're do work, we bid on work. We're going to need people to do the work. Our first choice would be hire the people that are already doing it, that already know how to do it. You give them the right equipment and people to, you know what I mean?
I mean, going back, if we're going to compare a water department to this, I think it's very difficult. And my mother was probably the single biggest beneficiary of the water contract. That money was on a different scale. That was on a different scale. We're talking about $1.9 million versus a heck of a lot more than that with direct pay from homeowners.
No, my question is geared to, it's very easy to say we'll assume or we'll take all the employees. But these employees have a union contract that's probably got about 32 articles in it. 12 vacation days, 3 personal days, 12 sick days.
Right.
On holidays, whatever it may be. No, I'm just saying.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you can laugh all you want.
I'm not laughing. I mean, you're a union rep by trade, so I get where you're coming from. But I think we're here to discuss if it works. And he didn't say that he's going to. He said that would be his first.
No, and he actually said no, he would not accept the full union contract. In other words,
Well, right. I don't think that would be prudent for anybody. We could raise this price to $3 million and maybe do that.
no, I'm just saying when the water department did it.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, because I was not on the council at that point in time. I believe it was item for item accepted.
Right, because it's a much bigger scale. And once you were in, there was no way to bring in a second person. They were going to have that contract in perpetuity from their experience. And it worked out, and every one of those people who transferred from the city to Viola, generally pretty happy. Generally pretty happy. And like I said, my mother was probably the single biggest beneficiary from all of that. So I'm familiar with it, and I understand how they were able to do it. It was just a different scale.
I want to go to Rick, who's one of our public
Yes.
workers, and he had a question.
I think it's for Jason. If this was to go through and you put the vehicles out on the street, you're not quite sure how many at this point. Number one is one of the guys, I drive the trailer, so I'm not out on the street, but I am out on the street when I'm needed as a fill-in.
Yep.
Cars in the way, because we have so many one-way streets, so many vehicles, so many apartments with, you got this 3-bedroom house and you got it broken up into 4 apartments and they all have 2 or 3 cars and all these vehicles on the street. You try to go down some of these streets with a one arm.
You're not gonna do it. You gotta get out of the car, you gotta drag their cars to the street and
So you would put a helper onto the one arm truck?
Yeah, we have to do the work.
Yeah.
We have to get the work done.
Because I've heard other people say, not you guys, others say, if it's not out, we can't get it, we don't go back for it. That's not the way it works.
No, the job is what it is. I mean, we know
We
what
gotta
it
go
is.
back for it.
We know what the job is. We know, I mean, like I said, our office is on Jefferson. It's on a one-way in the middle of the, multifamily house. I mean, I see it every day. Where it is. I see your guys doing it. You got hills.
Until you get down.
It's hard. It's hard work. You guys are doing hard work out there. There's no question about it.
Did anybody else have a question? Did you have more, John, or?
Not right now,
Okay, Marty had a question.
Well, I mean, just to get back to labor, I mean, I think that the policy decision is going to have to be made is whether to absorb, for lack of better words, current employees into the private firm, if that can be managed successfully, or some part thereof. Or maybe some guys will say, I just don't want to do this. I like my city job. Leave me alone. Or whether or not we maintain the workforce that currently exists, because there's certainly plenty of work in public works in other areas, and whether or not we're able to financially manage that. That's
These are all big ifs. These are all things that are going to be decided in rooms other than this.
Could be the crux of whether or not what we end up doing.
Correct. I agree.
I mean, like, you say you drive a trailer. So under this deal, there's not trailer work per se with this. We run 30 tractor trailers.
I know. I run
You see them, yeah, you see them
guys every day.
So,
I ran 3 loads to Preston today.
yeah.
I see your
You see them all
trailers
day
are in there
long.
very
So
early.
We have other work in other areas to say that we're gonna take all, you mentioned 14 people, for this particular contract. I don't know if they would all be on this contract, but we would use them. We would use everybody somewhere. Like I said, we're extremely busy. We're stuff going on all over the place.
One other thing is that in regards to the pay-as-you-throw program, which a benefit that was promoted to the council by the mayor is the revenue stream for the bags. And how do we compensate, or do we, for that loss of revenue that we're not going to get?
I have a couple of ideas.
Pay as you throw was disguised as a tax.
Right.
The tax.
It's really kind of a moot point now that the recycling fees are what they are.
You'd be able to use yard waste bags and removal.
Well, and I'm saying this, and Jason, cut me off, please, if you don't think you can do this. But yeah, yard waste, we can certainly have the city create revenue stream through that. We can. I actually put in my discussion points an opportunity for if people aren't going to recycle, like we hope everybody does, and they want to continue using multiple trash carts, then there should be a fee associated with that. You're costing the city, you should pay because you don't want to take care of the recycling like we all hope you do. So if that fee is $52 or $78 or whatever it is, if you drive around, I encourage everybody to do this, just look, I mean, how many people here have just one cart? Just one green cart. Of course, Bob does. But for most, if you drive around, it's more the rule than the exception. And there would be an additional revenue stream here that I would suggest could be
Hartford,
very high in the six figures.
Hartford, the public works director up there, and this is probably somebody that your committee should talk to at some point. A woman named Marilyn Cruz. I don't know if any of you know her.
We will, Maryland.
Marilyn Cruz, her name is. She was public works.
Get it the next meeting.
She was public works in New Britain, and she was public works in Hartford, and now she's public works in East Hartford.
Was she Public Works when you took over New Britain, or is it?
Yep.
Okay.
She was in. We started doing the recycling contract in New Britain in 1991. I was trying to date myself. I was 21, and I was driving a truck. And she was there at the beginning of that when the recycling law started, the curbside recycling. But anyway, she in Hartford, to save money, she started dialing back service. You know, the city would supply service to up to a 10-unit building. Then they went to 8, then they went to 6, then they went, they just kept dialing it back, and those landlords went from having free service with the city to having to call a private hauler. And she tightened that up over time. So she had unions in Hartford. She privatized part of it. She had unions in New Britain. Half of it was private. East Hartford is a strange town. The city picks up the trash. A private hauler picks up the recycling. So the whole union, non-union, privatization. What do we pick up? What do we not pick up? She's really done it for 30 years all over the place. She'd be somebody who's ready to talk to.
In New Britain, the way it's probably say it's going to work the same way here in New London, what happens when something's left based on enforcement, or however you want to call it, is on the curb that you guys shouldn't pick up? Do you pick it up anyways? And I'm kind of playing devil's advocate because the way policy is here in New London, and it came down from when he was here, the director of public works. We heard from Boots on the Street last week that they try to enforce it, but then the phone call comes to the mayor's office, the city admin, and they're forced to go out and pick something back up, even though they're complying with what's being set aside, shouldn't be picked up. And I just wanted to know how you guys handle that with the privatized.
Our general rule, and it's probably not the right way to do it, but it's pick it up. And because we don't want the phone calls. We don't want you to get the phone calls. This guy's the mayor's sister, this guy's this, you left the whatever in front of our house.
That doesn't happen here.
Yeah. This guy, put
Tell me then how you'd be doing.
just pick it up.
Related to everybody.
And somebody leaves a TV or a chair.
There's got to be the political will to do that, and that has to be more on the city side, and
All right.
that's something you have to battle one way or the other.
In New Britain, when we took over New Britain for quite a number of years, we only did the recycling, another hauler did the trash. We took over the trash. And the person who took the complaint calls, once we took over, they gave her another job because the phone stopped ringing. And you could call and ask them this. Because we just pick it up. I don't want the phone to ring. I don't want people to complain. And that's what we did. And our opinion was, if we have an issue with the recycling plant on the other end with material that isn't acceptable, or material at the trash plant on the other end that we're picking up something we're not supposed to, then we'll deal with it. But until we hear from them, pick it up.
Jacqueline, you had a question? I know it was a while ago. Hopefully you remember.
And it probably isn't,
It's been a while.
it's not the best answer, but it's a practical answer. We don't want your phone to ring. We don't want to get the call.
We also don't want the crap
call
laying
that
on
says
the
you guys suck, because they left, there was curtain rods sticking out of the recycling can, you didn't pick them up. We just pick them up.
I have spoken to a few of my neighbors. Happens to be one of them is selling her house, but renting right now, renting it out until she sells it. Now, one of the things was she didn't know a lot of this stuff, like the leaves. She was just putting them in the trash, in the green bin. Not until I told her that they're supposed to be in bags. the leaves, all the brush, all that stuff is supposed to be in bags. And they can be put out there and they'll pick it up. But she was like, well, I didn't know that. So again, there's a lot of education that needs to be done. Landlords, she's gonna be a landlord, once again. And like I told her, I said, you need to let your tenants know that they have to recycle. I went to, they were saying about the recycle bins and stuff like that you can go pick it up. Well, I went to pick up recycle bins, they didn't have any. And the answer was, they ordered 200, 150 went to the schools, 50 for the residents. And you know what I got? It wasn't, because the new ones were the little taller ones. And that's what I went to pick up. What I got was the little small bucket one, and it was full of cement.
It's heavy.
So,
There wasn't someone's feet in that one.
okay, nobody parts. But I was shocked. Yeah, right. I was shocked that, I saw the new bins out there. We needed new bins because we have the small ones and we're trying to, I'm an advocate now for recycling. Been doing it for a long time because I used to work in Hartford. So, and all of a sudden, we don't have the bins and I'm forced to, I'm looking out. I don't care what anybody says here, I'm looking out for these guys because it's their job, it's their back-breaking job.
It's an incredibly hard job.
And I'm trying to put everything in place, very neatly so it's easy for them to pick up, so they're not, and very light so it's not heavy or whatever. And it's kind of hard when you don't even have the equipment to do it correctly.
Agreed. That's a city finance problem, though.
And I was just very, very shocked that I got one with cement in it.
I've tried 3 or 4 times to get a recycling gun and haven't done it.
Yeah, and again, education is key. Tenants have to be educated, landlords have to be educated. We have to make these people accountable. And you know what? I don't mind finding them. I will be the first one to find them because they're not, compliant. They're not in compliance, but then again, they're not being educated.
Jason, you wanted to say something, I want to wrap up this, we can go into a little bit more of the
I was
agenda.
curious, like, how are the guys that are out there now, do they get root pay, do they just work by the hour? If they get done early, do they get,
Rick might be able to answer that.
the guys that are out there now working, the guys on the route, do they get root pay or they get just paid by the hour?
By the hour.
By the hour.
How do you guys work it?
We do both, but we have some that we pay root pay. And, they get paid for more hours than they work.
Okay, it's something similar here, because there was an incentive that if they got done early, they were able to go home.
Used to have. Well, we still have, that's still in our contract.
It just can't do it.
It's impossible.
That
It's
was
impossible at
something
this point.
CJ
We just don't have
mentioned they
enough
had
guys out
done
there,
in
is what I'm saying,
Waterbury
that
before
We have
they
3
went
garbage
to
routes per
program
day,
Where they got the
We have
trucks
2
in
trucks.
Kansas, they didn't audit it.
which has been going on now for over 2 years.
And they're what, rear loaders or side loaders? What are they?
Rear loaders.
They're both rear loaders with helpers on them?
So I want to thank Gordon for coming and Jason for coming to our committee.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
For Jason.
Yep.
Your trucks, what is their GVW? Because with our 2 rear loaders now, they go out at 7:30 in the morning. They come in at 11:30 to dump. They're dumping between 15 to, most days about 17 to 23, 24,000. They dump that twice a day. Wouldn't your trucks have to make more than 1 trip to Preston a day to haul that amount of trash?
Our trucks are,
Our trucks are 60,000.
yeah,
They come in if they come in there with over 20,000, they're overweight. But that is a daily,
tandem axle truck, is 56.5 gross, and with a lift axle, you can go to 73,000 pounds gross.
so you would be able
So,
to take a little more.
yeah, but I think it's still a 2-load day, I agree with you. But Preston's not that far, I
Right.
I don't see it really slowing us down too much. I mean, if you had your 3 guys out there or 3 routes out there like you should, I mean, how?
We would still have that amount, that total amount.
No, I know, the amount of
Day.
trash isn't gonna change, but I'm saying the amount of hours you guys are working will be quite a bit less,
If,
right?
if we had 3 trucks out, which we had, 1 sidearm and 2 rear loaders.
Yep.
Wednesday was pretty much the only day you wouldn't be finished until close to the end of your day, which would be about 4 o'clock.
Yep.
The other days, if everybody's working together, you could be done for your, our incentive is 220. And if everybody's done, all routes are done,
220 is the time?
we'll pay till
220?
4. Yep.
Yep.
Which, like I said, for the last few years, does not exist.
How many trucks would you have?
I mean, at least 3. I mean, the thing that would be different with us would be the recycling would be in the 90-gallon carts. Whether that's faster or slower than dealing with them 15-gallon bins, I would assume at least on the automated route it would be faster.
And also in their proposal with recycling would be
Our
every other week.
recycling,
Or every other week, yeah.
1 driver, and that's it. He has to stop at every stop, get out, throw it in that trough on the side, and then
Lift it over the top, the old.
lifts, yeah,
So that route is in addition to the 3 garbage routes?
that's
So
correct.
it's 4, yeah.
There's 2 recycle routes, 3 garbage routes, the way it's set up now.
So thanks to Gordon and Jason for coming in and educating us and giving us the presentation, answering lots of questions. If you want to hang around for a little bit of education talk we're going to have, feel free.
In the 1960s, an anti-war movement emerged that has been effective